Hey, good morning and welcome back to Skaters on Baseball. I'm Christian Cooper. I'm alongside my partner Schmitty here, and we have a very special guest today on the pod. We've got Chris Lomeli, and he is, as we will find out his actual title in a minute, he is part of the illustrious grounds crew that keeps Oracle Park firing for the San Francisco Giants, and this is a real treat for us. This is like an insider of pretty high level. So welcome to the show, Chris.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, welcome. We're going to learn some stuff today. Did you get the tornado warning this morning?
I saw it right now. Yeah, I know.
You better get down there, man. Grass is flying.
I'm super stoked to be here, man. I mean, this is I discovered you guys' podcast right when I moved out to the Bay Area. Back in August, and I was like, this is so rad. Really pumped to be here and talk a little bit baseball, talk some skating.
Where are you from?
So originally I'm from Fresno, in the Fresno area.
Okay.
Yeah, but I actually moved around a lot. In this job, you kind of move where the job is, and so I've actually lived all over the place. So grew up in Fresno, started my career in Fresno with the Fresno Grizzlies. At the time, it was the AAA Astros, so the Giants had just left.
Okay.
So I was there. Kind of started off as a guest services kind of guy, and from there went about 4 years, and then eventually moved to Modesto. Was in Modesto for one season, and then from there went to Boise, Idaho. So I was in Idaho for 2 years. That's kind of where COVID happened and all that. So that was pretty cool because, I got a chance to live in a new city, a new state, but everything was kind of shut down. So things were just open. Didn't really have the season to worry about. It was a short season single A team with the Rockies. And it was right when that new MLB minor league negotiations were going around. And so we weren't sure what our future was. Turns out we went full indie ball, kind of had to start a league all on our own from the ground up.
No way.
But it was kind of rad during that time because I got to skate a lot because there was a really cool skate park there that was under a bridge. I don't know if you guys have ever been to Boise, but the Rhodes skate park there, it's underneath a bridge.
Yeah.
And it's lit up at night. So like even if it's raining, snowing, whatever, it's like you can skate there fully, like when like at least 90% of the park. It was pretty sick. So.
That one's a little slippery, right?
Yeah, it does get a little slick.
Yeah,
it does get a little slick,
yeah,
but
it's pretty sick though. It's got a lot of different options. So, what's your day-to-day like, and how's it differ during the season versus off the season? Like, are you still there a lot off season, or?
Yeah, definitely. So. In season, I work every game. So what I do is I'm an operations manager on the maintenance side of the stadium. So I work closely with the ballpark ops team. Basically, what we do is we're all in charge of making sure that place, as you said earlier, making sure that place is ready to go every single day. So my department specifically that I manage a crew of about 230 people. And those people are in charge of making sure that place is cleaned and ready every single day. The ballpark runs on like a 24-hour cycle. So there's always someone there. They do a really good job. It's kind of one of those areas where I feel like doesn't get a whole lot of light shined on it because, people assume, and rightfully so, people assume you go to the ballpark, grab a hot dog, some food, garlic fries, beer, soda, whatever. Go to your seat, watch a ball game, right? That's the common, perception of what it's like. But there's so many things that happen behind the scene to make it happen. It's pretty rad to shed some light on those people that really putting in some work, and so basically for me, I get there a little bit before game time, and I actually stay all the way until about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I manage the crews that are doing full stadium sweeps every night.
Okay.
So they're out there. They're actually everything's done by hand. So nothing is, there's no machines really used outside of stuff to haul it, but they're picking up trash by hand, they're sweeping by hand, they're making sure that place gets cleaned up. That happens from like 11. They start at 11 and they'll go all the way till 5:30 in the morning, and then I have another crew that comes in and washes everything every single day. So they're back up there with power washers. I mean, they're hosing that place down, making sure it's clean as best as it can be every single day. So, and then there's two other crews that come in, and my partner manager, she kind of manages during the day up until about game time. So it's nice because we kind of split it, and so that way, we're not there 24 hours a day because it could get pretty tiresome. So. But yeah, in season, pretty much that's the nice thing about it. It's kind of turnkey, you know what I mean, once you get a routine established. And then off season's kind of nice because it kind of turns into a 9 to 5. It's also the same for like off weeks. So yeah, 9 to 5, we basically show up, and just start getting ready for the next one. The next season rolls around, you get about 2-3 weeks of where you can just sit back and be like, all right, cool. Like season's over. We kind of relax, and then boom, we're planning the next one. Like, hey, we want to do this. We have so many new things coming to the ballpark next year, so it's pretty rad to kind of see it from the ground up. And there's maintenance needs required from us, So we just get ready to go. And there comes a point right around November, early November, mid-November, where we're like, all right. I think we're ready for some baseball again. You get kind of bored at some point. But yeah, the people I work with are really cool. Everybody's super chill, so it's fun.
So in the off season, I mean, is there a huge changeover of all the signage, of all the stuff that's all around the park in terms of the marketing and all that? I mean, I know in the history of Oracle, like the park has always just been like pristine, sparkling every time I've gone to a game. Like it's beautiful. You walk in there and it doesn't look run down. It doesn't look beaten up. Candlestick that I went to for decades was a little bit of a different story. It seemed like it got a little bit more beat up every single year.
Everywhere.
I actually went to one of the last 49ers games at Candlestick the last year before they bulldozed the place, and I was sitting in there looking at all the cracking concrete and all the seats that were busted up and just going, man, they really let this place go,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's the changeover in the year. Yeah, there's certainly a lot of it. Particularly this year, we've got a bunch of new like food things that are going in, like a lot of cool updates to some of our concession stands and things like that. So it's going to be a lot more user friendly, a couple more grab and go type things. So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that happening right now. So that changeover, yeah, off seasons typically there are definitely a lot of moving parts. Maybe not as ready to see fans as it normally would be because they're kind of doing moving furniture around or moving countertops out of the way just to be able to access certain areas. So yeah. Definitely. And then all that new signage comes in once we launch our marketing campaigns. How we always have some kind of new slogan or something like that. So those will start coming out. Then you'll start seeing those banners being hung on the walls, up on the clock towers and things like that. So yeah, off season's the time to really start knocking that stuff out, when it's a little bit slower around the field.
So do you work during games? Are you able to watch any of the games, or are you like, is that a faux pas? Like, how does that work out?
No, yeah, I actually do. I get to watch the games as much as my own schedule or things that I have to do permits. The nice thing about it is that, and this is also true for the concerts that we do too. We get to. I have my little office right there, right when you walk in. I know you guys have seen, like, on the broadcast or anything where that little tunnel area by the left field foul pole where the ambulance is always parked right there. Our office is just right there, essentially right underneath those left field.
The bleachers?
Yeah, not the bleachers, but the other side.
Okay, yeah.
Right by the foul pole. And for us, it's nice because, we can... I can watch the games as much as I can. If I've got stuff to do, like deal with staffing, schedules, things like that. I can I'll knock that out. But I mean, that's only so much of the day. For the most part, I get to, walk around the ballpark, make sure things are ticking, make sure there's no major issues. Sometimes you get a call on the radio and saying, hey, can you come take a look at this? Like this, there's a problem here. We're super responsive on that. So, but for the most part, I like to walk over to the bleachers and stand on the steps and right behind our left fielder. And, this year will be another one for like the 13th, 14th straight year. I get to watch from there. So it's a cool perspective too, because, I could turn around and see the crowd. It kind of makes you feel good about what you do. It's like instant gratification. You open up the gates and things are ready and people are stoked to be there. You're like, all right, the team did good today because, this place is ready. So that's a lot of gratification we get from it.
Do you get to taste test any of the new food that's coming out? Do they have any sort of to get input from the people that work there, or is it?
I'm sure they do. I haven't had a chance to do it, but yeah, I'm sure that there is a big level of that. They do. I mean, the Giants, man, they do so much for us. And, I came up through the minor league system almost like a player does, and so it's just crazy the leap from the minor leagues into the big leagues and the amount of care that they put into, and not saying that the minor leagues didn't, but they just do it within their means, but the amount of just the details that the Giants really do to take care of their employees, man, it's so rad. Like every game day they have dinner for us, like buffet style. You know what I mean? You go and the menu's always change. It's not just like sandwich platter, stuff like that. Like it's so awesome. And because I work nights, I get my overnight lunch from there too. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's like they got a whole area for us to go and sit down and eat and just kind of enjoy your staff's company, and everybody's super chill that I work with too. Everybody's a human there. No one's on like a high horse. Even like, Mr. Bear, Larry Bear, like my first interaction with him, I went down to Ike's just down the road from there. And he was just sitting there eating lunch with his son. And I had my name badge on. And I get my food, I walk out, and he like sees my name badge. He doesn't know me, but like he sees my name badge and stops and says, hey, what, how are you? Like, and he used to say, hey, I'm Larry, nice to meet you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, nice to meet you. Thanks for hiring me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. And he was so sick because super human. You know what I mean?
He prides himself in being social with everybody. I see him around all the time, and he's up in the front row at most games watching, and he's a fan. It's good to see that. For sure. I got to ask you, because you've come up with the minors and stuff. Yeah. You've seen the difference. You just said all that. What are your thoughts on this crazy situation in Sacramento with the Athletics?
That's going to be wild, man.
I'm just kind of feeling like it's not going to work.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to go one of two ways. I think that it's either going to go fantastic and the A's aren't going to want to leave Sac, or they're just going to stick to the plan, right? Stay there for a few years and then head out. I saw a video the other day, actually, of all the upgrades that Sac has been doing. Actually, a buddy of mine that I worked with in the minors, he was actually the mascot for the Grizzlies. He eventually became the mascot for the A's. And so he did the move with them. He lives in Fresno, but he commutes, out there for game days, and they've got a rotation of people kind of doing it. So he's like been back and forth to Sacramento, and you can kind of see all the stuff. Like they pretty much made that place already a stadium for the A's. It's crazy. Yeah,
I mean, I have no doubt in my mind that Sacramento will embrace them. Like Sacramento's a town that wants baseball, right? That's not the issue, but a team like the Yankees, we keep talking about these big, stars coming in there, and if I'm not mistaken, the clubhouse is like in the outfield. There's just a lot of things that aren't really catered to your typical like prima donna, like a Juan Soto or somebody is going to be like, wait, what? And then like, I think home runs are going to be flying out of there. Like it's a small space. And the thing that bums me out, and I don't know how they're working this out, so maybe there is stuff, but kind of like the women's basketball here, it's a small attendance, so they just have the prices through the roof. Like a price is $350 for a Valkyrie game. It's like I can't afford to do that. So again, just like when the Warriors moved, the diehards in Oakland that were like getting the cheap seats, they're priced out. And I think that's gonna happen in Sacramento because there's only like 15,000 seats there. So I think the price is gonna be a lot. And I just hate baseball when it's just the rich people, you know. That's the basketball. I can it's fine. Baseball is not meant for the rich. It's meant for the working class. Like, this is a game that we understand. We need to just go and get, the shit off our shoulders and just chill out and drink a beer and watch some ball. And when they take that away from us, that's when we have resentment. And so I don't know. I'm worried about it, but I know that the Athletics owner's kind of a piece of shit, and he's not going to care one way or the other. So it's kind of like until they sell the team, anything can happen.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, we'll see how it plays out. I have a really good buddy. She was the director in the community engagement department there with the A's, and we worked together for years. Her and my wife are friends. Like, they still talk since we moved out here. So she left Fresno to work for the A's, which we were super stoked for her. And she came out here, she got married, she settled down, had a family, and now her job left, and she opted to not go to Sacramento. Now it wasn't, it was her choice, but it's a bummer. I mean, it's a bummer for the people across the Bay. I live in the East Bay, so it's a bummer for people to that were fans, that were diehards, that aren't going to have access to that. I mean, that day, that last game, it was sad at our office. We were watching it on the screen. I think we were on the road, and those guys were finishing up their last game, and the guy that sits next to me, his name is Pedro, awesome dude, super funny, but he's a diehard A's fan. You know what I mean? He grew up in Brentwood, lives in Walnut Creek now, and he was bummed. He was. It was a sad time during in our office there that time. We're all pretty bummed, because it's not good for Bay Area baseball, It's
a huge hit for Oakland, too. I mean, they already lost their football and basketball team.
Everything,
it's just a bummer.
Yeah, for sure. We were really bummed. My family grew up in Patterson, Modesto area, and they would go to A's games all the time, and the Modesto A's were there, too. They're minor league affiliate, right. So like, the A's have been kind of in our family. I'm like, me and my sister are like the only ones that are Giants fans, that grew up Giants fans. Everybody else is, A's and Dodgers fans, unfortunately. But, nobody's perfect. But
hey, Patterson is Louis Barletta.
Yeah. So funny enough, I have a story about Louis Barletta. A cousin of mine is around his age, and it was the Crux team came into town. And we were doing a demo at one of the CBS shops. It was Copeland's. They were doing a demo there, and then him, Cairo, Caswell, all those guys ended up coming back because I was part of the team I was writing for the clothing company that was co-sponsor of the demo, and our owner of the clothing company he was a skate park builder. His name is Josh. He used to build little parks, little DIY spots all around Fresno. And he built a really cool little DIY pool area. Nothing was like above 4 feet except this one ridiculous 8-foot wall that had 5 feet of vert on it with a little 2-foot transition. And I got to actually hang out with those guys after the demo, skating this backyard DIY spot. It was so sick because Louis does this frontside rock and roll on that wall. I was just blown away by it. I was like, oh my gosh, that is insane.
Crazy.
It was the first time I got a chance to hang out with dudes like that. So it was it was pretty sick. And then just Cairo and Caswell just hanging out, like taking pictures, and
those
they were
guys are
just
cool.
super cool. Yeah, I was pretty stoked. And me growing up skating, I mean, I started skating in '99, and I went through skated the whole castle contest. Grew up skating those, and I used to, at the time, I think at like my peak, I was riding for DVS. I was flow through DVS. Was riding for a shop in Madeira. I don't know if you guys heard of Viva Skate Shop there in Madeira, but super cool dudes there. His name's Brian, super nice guy. He was like my first ever guy that started hooking me up. So it was rad. I got to experience some cool things with them and stuff. So yeah, I was pumped about it.
Did you get into the backyard pool scene? Because Fresno is kind of the backyard pool.
Vagabond. The Vagabond was so rad.
Okay.
When that was right at. So I grew up skating with like older guys. So my first experience skating was riding bowls, riding pools, and stuff like that. So it wasn't until I started competing that I had to kind of do some street stuff and learn some street stuff. And I lived in Fresno. The skate park I grew up skating was in Madeira. And so, we would every once in a while take a little trip down to downtown and go skate the Vagabond. And the Vagabond was so sick. It was super sketchy. Like the area that it was. Now it's kind of, now that it's tore out and they kind of redid that whole street. It's a lot nicer now, a lot more residential stuff now. But back then it was pretty sketchy. But it was sick. Like seeing like Ryan Johnson at the Vagabond just
off the roof into the thing.
Yeah, dude,
cover the Thrasher.
That was his place. Like you couldn't stop that man from flying all over the place. He was so sick. Like when they first built the skate park in Fresno, I didn't realize that he lived in Fresno. And so, because I had seen him around, at different places, and he would just be charging the skate park before it was open, and like there was no flat bottoms anywhere. It was just transitions, no flat bottom. It was like two different companies. And he was still like destroying that place. Like no worry, no flat bottom necessary for him. It was so sick to see that. Yeah. That dude is incredible. He's still at it too. Like he's still around. Yeah. It's sick. Yeah, it's sick to see that.
He's a legend down there. Clovis, Orange Cove. Mm-hmm. I used to go down there a lot because I filmed for Think, and Jesse Paez lived in Visalia. So we used to meet at that Madeira indoor skate park all the time, and
that's where I grew up skating.
And then I met Ryan, and Ryan and Poncho ended up being friends, and we would go down there all the time. But what's funny is I've never been to a game in Fresno. Like,
it's pretty sick.
I know. I go to Sacramento sometimes. I have never been to Stockton, but I want to start doing the minor league circuit a little bit and get to.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, check it out.
Yeah, San Jose, our low A affiliate, they're really known for their food. Like, I guess they got really good food. I've never been to that one.
And the beer batter, I want to check that out.
Yeah. I've been to a few minor league parks here outside of just the ones I've worked at. Stockton's cool. It's actually, for what it is, it's really nice. It's a newer ballpark, and everything's, you can imagine Major League Ballpark, just take out all the top levels, everything's single step level. The only problem with Stockton is that it's in Stockton.
It's Stockton. Yeah. Both my parents were born in Stockton. And, Stockton.
My mom lives there.
As much as what it might have been like when they were growing up, it's definitely different now in terms of it's not better.
Yeah. I mean, the area that it's in, at least from what I remember going there, because we would do work when I was in Modesto. A lot of permits and things like that would come from Stockton, so I'd have to drive out there and take care of some stuff there with the city, and then I also had a really good friend who was the ticket sales director for Stockton for 2 seasons. So I'd go out there and have lunch with him and stuff. And
you're all laced up.
Yeah, man, it's cool, man. This business, it's almost like a fraternity. Because it's so many like-minded people that know the grind, know the ups and downs of how a season can be. It's cool to when you meet them, it's like, yeah, you know what it's like we can just talk shop, and it's cool. Like everybody's super cool about, we share war stories, like, oh, I had this person do this one, well, I had this person do this one time.
Yeah, I was gonna say, share a war story with us. Like, has there been like a disaster? Because how instrumental are you guys with the grounds crew on the field? Because Christian and I were talking about like the tarp going over the guy and him getting stuck and McCutcheon having to go save him and those kind of things. Like, what have you seen or what have you had to interact with?
So I had actually a very similar story that happened to us when I was in Idaho with the Rockies there after we went independent ball. We had the same situation happen. The thing is, in the minor leagues, the grounds crew is only like 3-4 people tops. 3-4 people ain't moving a tarp. So that it's like all hands on deck. Every front office member, get your ass out there, grab a loop, and get to running. So our general manager, he honestly the coolest dude, one of the coolest people I've ever met, and his name is Mike Van Heist. He's in Jersey now. He's a GM at one of a minor league team in on the East Coast, but he runs to the middle of the tarp. Very noble, but definitely not where you want to be when you have to run at full speed in the rain. He grabs a loop. All of us are there. We're all grabbing a loop. We're getting the rain's dumping down on us, and we're running, pulling the tarp. And the tarp's heavy. Tarp's super heavy, especially when the rain comes down on it.
Yeah.
Well, he's looking behind him as he's holding the tarp. He turns around and he realizes he's gonna run. He's running over the mound. Hits the mound, just face plants into the mound. Mind you, there's people there, right? We're putting the tarp on during a game. He face plants, hits the mound, and then the tarp goes flying over him. And then we're all like, Mike's under, keep going. All right.
Man, how embarrassing.
It was my wife, it was funny. She made a meme about it, and so it circulated through our office. It was really fun. He was super cool about it, but man, that's definitely one for sure. And then there's been like a little more scary things too that like have happened. I remember Fresno, there was a concert we were managing, and there was a big fights that break out. They turned into like borderline riots, and then it spills over in the street, and people start pulling out like weapons and stuff like that. I've never seen anything like that here, in my experience in Fresno. Dudes getting stabbed. Like I saw a dude get stabbed like outside of the stadium one time, that he was a guest and he picked a fight with some rando on the street, and worst decision he could have made. And luckily my first aid staff were there. They took care of him. I mean, and he was good to go. But man, stuff like that can really happen. You have to be aware of those situations. But for the most part, every place I've worked in had really solid security measures, and it keeps everybody safe. This is just one of those random situations that happen outside with the random dude, and so it could be there are things like that, but you do this job because you love it, and it's all part of the grind.
Yeah. Well, San Francisco too, I think that the general fan interaction with the opposing team's fans and everything is a lot of playful banter and a lot of heckling, but not a lot of physical altercations or confrontations. Whereas if you go to Dodger Stadium or even Petco now a little bit, things can get kind of rough, and especially Dodger Stadium. Like I've been living in LA for over 25 years, and I went to Dodger Stadium a few games with the Giants when I first came down here, and after like the third or fourth game, I was like, I don't need this drama.
Fuck the Dodgers.
Like it's just the whole idea, like you show up and you're wearing a Giants cap or a jersey or whatever, and people are spitting on you and throwing shit at you, and it's not like that's not why baseball exists. And I don't care how big the rivalry is, and their justification is always, when it was Candlestick, you guys threw D-cell batteries at us, and it's like, come on, man, like really get over it. You weren't even born when that happened.
I know,
I was. I'm that old, but like just what? And so I think fans are pretty well behaved for the most part in San Francisco, and I think the the baseball rules about cutting off alcohol sales before the end of the game probably helped at some point. But yeah, it's different places you go, and it's nice. San Francisco has fairly good behavior, I would say.
Yeah, definitely some of the best. I can fully attest to that. You know, I had so my old GM I worked for a soccer team for a few years too, and my old GM, when we were both working with the Astros, he went to that 2017 World Series. He caught a couple of games down in LA, and then he also got to catch some in Houston.
He wasn't the guy in the outfield flashing the signs, was he?
No, he wasn't. Luckily, we didn't see any of that. I always tell people that too, because every time I say, "Oh yeah, I worked with the Astros during the World Series years," and they're like, "Oh, geez, what was the dugout like?" I was like, "I swear there was nothing on that at that level." You know what I mean? So. Though that year was pretty star-studded, which I could tell you guys about who we had there in our clubhouse, who I worked close proximity with. But that specific year in 2017, he went and caught a couple of games in LA, and he felt it because he's wearing Astros gear, right? Obviously, Astros sent us, so he's got Astros gear on, and they're just hounding him. He's in the bleachers, and it's the same thing, right? There's like beer getting thrown. Must have been game 3. But anyway, they went there. That was his experience, right? It was just a lot of heckling, a lot of kind of just, really getting to him. He was just like, man, like this is awful. And, he works there. You know what I mean? He's a Giants fan, but he works. These guys are paying his bills. Like that's what he's there for, right? And I will say that I think it's more reflection on the fans versus the organization. Now, organizations, they don't tolerate stuff like that, or at least they have that out there. Every stadium does a relative good job to keep their fans safe, but sometimes you can't help people. Sometimes people suck, right?
Yeah.
Most of the time, people suck.
Yeah. So he experienced that, but then on the flip side, when he went to Houston, he was so welcomed, and he went there wearing Grizzlies gear. He was so welcome. People there, even opposing people, were just so nice, and everybody was super welcoming. He's like, man, I felt like I could have probably slept on one of their couches that night. Like, I thought it was really interesting how different it can be. Different fan bases, feel different. I'm sure a game in Milwaukee is probably a lot different than a game in Houston versus a game in Tampa. It's.
I have been to games at Petco, Giants and Padres, where the Padres fans and the Giants fans seem to mesh really well. There's a lot of really funny heckling going on and stuff, and it's just part of the deal. And then I've gone to Anaheim and seen the Angels play the Giants. It's the same thing, and Anaheim seems more family oriented in terms of like the people that come in. So I went with a whole bunch of guys, Salba and all these bunch of skaters. We went to a game last year, and we're sitting down the left field line up in the second deck, and we're surrounded by people with kids, so we're keeping the language very appropriate, but we're just going off and heckling and just making all kinds of jokes. And we had the whole section cracking up like they were like, "You guys are nuts,"
Those are the best kind of fans.
Yeah. And I'm the lone Giants fan, and all the rest of them are Angels fans, right? So they're giving it to me, I'm giving it to them, we're giving it to the people over there. It was hilarious, but so much fun, right? And
it is. It makes the game so much fun.
Oh yeah, I mean, if everybody just sat in their seats and never did anything, it would be boring. I mean, the fan interaction with the game is a huge part of the whole experience. It's why I love baseball so much.
And I'll tell you too, the players love it too. They love when they can hear somebody saying something funny.
What's the matter with Slater? He's a bum. The whole outfield just cheering at these guys, just torture.
I follow that guy. That was it's so funny, man. He's so funny. I want to meet that guy. Next time, I'm gonna have to go hunt him down when he's at a game. But they love it. I've gotten a chance to become friends with some guys over the years, and you get to a point where you can ask them things like that. When you first join this job, they tell you, hey, there's going to be times where you're going to be working closely with a player, especially in my position in ballpark ops. Like there are times like I manage the teams that go in and clean the clubhouse, so there's interactions, and I get to the point where, you become buddies, and couple of guys. There's a guy he's pitching for the Astros right now, Penn Murphy. He was with the Mariners for a long time. The coolest dude ever. And there's a lot of dudes that like skated for a lot of years. Like, yeah, I don't know if you guys know, but Joe Musgrove used to skate a lot.
Oh, no.
Yeah. He when he was coming up with the Astros, I don't know if you guys remember, the Pirates had a third baseman called Colin Moran. I don't know if he's playing anymore. He was a utility guy, but Colin Moran had bought a longboard, so they were teammates. And in Fresno, if you've ever see the ballpark there, they have the ballpark is dug in.
Yeah.
So you have to go down this massive ramp, it's probably like 70 feet long. maybe like a 30 degree incline.
Steep.
So it's super steep. And Colin has his longboard, and he's like, okay, well, I'm gonna go down on my longboard down that ramp. And so one day after a game, he just sets up, and mind you, everybody's leaving, right? And I'm standing there with Joe, with Musgrove, and all of a sudden, he just comes flying down the ramp. Has no idea what he's doing. And he jumps off his board. Luckily, he didn't get hurt. Jumped off his board, ran into the tunnel to kind of break through. And then Joe's looking at him and was like, "Are you kidding, man? You're going to risk your career for a cheap thrill? Like, what the hell are you doing?"
Oh, man.
But it was crazy. But that same night, Musgrove was telling me, he's like, "Yeah, man, like I used to skate. I miss skating, but my feet just got too damn big. Like I couldn't skate anymore," is what he was saying. And then he's like, "Yeah, in high school I had to choose, and I chose baseball." So, which I think he made the right call on his part.
I mean, we just interviewed Grant McRae, and he kind of said something similar to that. But it's always cool. So I'm sure if you've listened to the show, Andy Cuno, the team photographer, and I are friends.
Yeah,
and
I saw him last night.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So. He was telling me that Tristan Beck skates, right? And I was like, oh, cool. So I was kind of excited. And Tristan Beck comes in, and he's got this Sector 9 longboard strapped to his back. And I'm just like, whatever. And so me and Andy, our running joke is we call Tristan Beck Sector 9.
Nice.
Yeah, but it's cool. I mean, Pat Burrell grew up with Justin Strubing. I sent him a box of some Thrasher gear, and he was so fired up. And to me, I'm thinking these guys are kind of rich. Like a Thrasher hoodie, what does that mean? And they're just pumped. It's cool.
Oh yeah.
So. Yeah, it's interesting. I was going to ask you for etiquette because we're all evolving here, with cancel culture especially. We've learned to evolve even quicker. But you go to the ball game, you buy a bag of peanuts, you buy a beer, you crack the peanuts and you throw the shells on the ground, or do you get a thing to in my day it was just everywhere and then you guys come and clean it up afterwards. Is that kind of looked down upon now as almost not tipping your valet guy? Should people be more conscious of hey dude, you could easily get something to put the shells or spit your spits in, or is it no, this is what we expect?
I mean, I think my perception on that's kind of is changed over the years, because I was very much the same way, just hey, someone's getting paid to do this, but now managing the department that has to be the ones that go in, it's always helpful. It's nice. It's not a requirement. We don't push it, because at the end of the day, the only thing the fans should have to worry about is enjoying the game, right? We'll be there. We'll make sure things are picked up. This seat will be ready to go tomorrow. We're not worried too much about it. Is it nice when you come across a cup holder and you see full of peanut shell, a cup full of peanut shells? Yeah, but in the grand scheme of things, there's always going to be people that throw things on the floor. It's inevitable. At the end of the day, we just want to provide a good fan experience, and we don't want them to have to worry about cleaning up this place, and so it's not necessarily looked down upon. It's nice when areas are a little cleaner than others, because it saves the backs of my people.
Sure.
but it's not, not nothing we really worry about too much. So
is there a correlation between the seat price and how tidy or untidy people leave it? I'm just curious. I almost think that the people who are paying $400 or $500 to sit in that seat might be sloppier than the guy who paid $18. But I could be wrong.
Like in the Lexus seats, it's just fucking a mess.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the same. It's pretty consistent either way. I mean, when somebody pays for a ticket, they're entitled to a certain level of I guess they have a certain level of entitlement to that seat. Maybe not like a douchebag way of a level of entitlement, but there is a certain level of like, hey, I bought this seat. This is my seat for the day. Like I have my ownership of this seat for the day, and I get to enjoy it. So, one, nobody be in that seat when I get there, and two, I want to be able to enjoy the space around me. Now, we do take special care of those more premium areas because they just require different things.
Sure. I've sat there once. I know with the food service, drink service.
So there are different levels
I love it down there.
Yeah, but and also seats that have padding on them, you don't treat those the same as seats without it. You could be you could take a power washer straight to them if you need to, right? As opposed to having to actually hand wipe everything down. So there's different levels to it, but all in all, the process is the same, just a little different.
So with the bleachers and the seagulls, I mean, obviously you guys probably come in and wash those down the next morning and not at night, right?
The seagulls eat the junk, but then they leave the shit.
Yeah. It's actually a lot easier to get that up off of the bleachers than anything else. Like it's honestly easier to clean up after seagulls than it is. Exactly. The benches, they actually get washed. That crew comes in at 4 a.m. every single day, so it gives the sweeper crew a chance to get all the trash out of that area. So all they have to do is hose everything down, and it's honestly a lot more like ketchup spills or beer spill, because beer leaves a sticky. We've all spilled a cup of beer in the so. It leaves a sticky residue either on the bleachers or on the floor, and the crew comes in and they just hose it down, and it's we have probably at any particular time we probably have close to 25 power washers going.
Oh wow!
So if you go around the ballpark around 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning during a homestand, you just hear these motors running because they're out there and getting after it and getting it all clean, but. Yeah, the birds definitely help. They definitely help with food. I'll tell you that. So it's pretty sick. And we're always walking when at the end of the game we'll walk by, we'll look up and be like, oh, it's a light day today where there's not that many seagulls, or it's like, oh, it's heavy today. Like it's a thing that we notice every single time.
I heard that they got a hawk or a falcon or something because the seagulls are there's not nearly as many as there used to be when that park opened. What's the over/under on throw-up sightings per game?
If I was a betting man, I would say you have a good chance of getting some every single game. So, we have this thing called Devour. It's basically puke powder, and you just you throw it on there, smells good. We take care of it, but every game. That a can of that is used 100%. So, but I mean that goes across every league too. Every team that I've ever worked for, there has been something like that every single game. And at one point I was the one doing it, and then now I'm fortunate enough to be in a position where I have the staff that can do that. There's no way I'd be able to manage calls like that by myself at a stadium that size. But
nice.
Yeah. You're definitely going to see that every game. Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your perception of the team and the stadium. I live 2 blocks from the stadium, and I grew up in the Bay Area. I've lived here my whole life, so I might be a little jaded or a little biased or whatever, but I've traveled the country and gone to a bunch of parks, and besides Wrigley and Fenway, which are the 2 oldest, easily ours is the best ballpark.
Oh, it's known.
And so people that I don't know, people that come around from everywhere, even Dodger fans, they'll be like, "It's a pretty sick stadium, right?"
Yeah. Yeah.
What is the team what's the atmosphere like, and what do you think is going to be different now that Buster is in charge? We already got Adamas, which is a little higher star power than maybe there's more to come. Like, what are your thoughts? How are you feeling, and what are the vibes?
Well, the cool thing about it was actually, first time I got to experience this on Thursday, we were actually on a big Zoom call with Buster. Like, the entire front office was invited to the Zoom call, which is wild to us, right? Because I'm in ballpark ops. Like, we're never gonna chat. I mean, I see Buster every now and again in a tunnel, and just a simple wave and hi, how you doing type thing. But which is crazy because like him and I are the same exact age. Like, he's only like 2 months older than me, and I'm like, man, you're doing a lot better in life than I am, man. But him and Crawford, they're both my age. It's crazy.
Wow.
But yeah, and so I see him there. But in this call, Zach Manassian was in there, our new he's our new GM, and it was really cool because they went over end of the year. Just, your typical, hey, had a great year. Here's some numbers. Here's some goals that we reached. Like, great job, everybody. It's like, hey, but what we want to do is we want to bring Buster in, talk about this new signing, what it means. And basically what we got through that, and Buster said it perfectly too in that call, was that this era that we're about to walk into with the Giants, it's an era that the fans are just going to be stoked on. It's kind of got that feeling of those championship years where, there was players that you can see every single day, who are going to be in the lineup, it's not, a little less platooning, and which has kind of been the MO, for the last few years. And I think signing Adamas is super sick because, one, he's just a nice guy. Any interactions that we've had among people around the league, like anybody that we've talked to has said that he's just the nicest person. And we, funny enough, we actually had a small interaction when he was getting the tour around the ballpark. When we were walking by, it was me and like the people that I work with in my office. We were heading to a lunch. And it was right before his press conference, so he was there doing the tour, and we were try to stay out of their way because there's cameras following him around, and he's got stuff to film, content to film, so he's walking with his family through the tunnel, and we see the cameras. There's like a big mob of people coming this way. We're like, oh, let's all get out of the way, right? So it's me, a couple of the other people I work with. As we're walking through, he like takes a moment, acknowledges all of us, makes eye contact with all of us, tells everybody, good morning, nice to see you, thanks for having me. He says it to every single person. Doesn't have to do that. He's a big leaguer, right? He just made 180-some million on this, just signed this massive deal. He doesn't have to speak to any of us, but he makes it a point to make eye contact with you and say hi, good morning. Even though he'll forget us the second he walks through. It's just a true testament to his character, you know what I mean? And so it's cool to have guys like that, and I've seen that from a few other players. Jung-Hoo Lee is another one that is like that very much. There's a bit of a language barrier, but my guy Matt, he handles all the shipments there at the ballpark, and he's always if you guys ever go there early enough, you'll see him. He's big old black and gray beard. He's always out there and right in front of the players' lot, and he learned a couple of Korean phrases so he can talk to Jung-Hoo when he comes in.
Smart.
And so once he learned how to say hello, like he was very kind of reserved. Jung-Hoo was very reserved. Second he learned that phrase, he opened up, and he was just like, oh, nice to see you, like nice to meet you, like super cool guy, and
nice.
And so it's really cool to see that. And I've had interactions like that with like Robbie Ray. He's been really cool. He walks around in his cowboy boots.
Yeah, he's a shit kicker.
Yeah. Tight jeans. I'm like, man. But like, dude, and this guy's massive too. He's super tall, and I'm like, same story, right? He's like that. I've had interactions with Jordan Hicks like that. Him and Eric Miller are still around. They they're hanging out at the ballpark right now. They're getting their off-season work there. So
no way.
It's cool to yeah. So you can kind of see them throwing on the field still. But occasionally you'll see Buster go out there and just hang with them and talk to them and stuff.
That gets me fired up because I don't know if the Giants. I think one thing that I've kind of been a critic of is most of the players don't live here, and I think that when you have a star with star power like a Tim Lincecum, and he's living in the city, it just brings energy that probably promotes business, and it's good for the city. And you know, I get why they live in Lafayette or go back to Miami or go back to Arizona where the weather's warm and all that. But a guy like Adames, when he signs for 7 years, I'd be hopeful that he brings the family and they stay planted here. You know, it's part of the package to me. Like you're here for some years, bro. Like you don't want your wife living in Florida. You want your wife living across the street, you know, wherever. So that stuff I really love. Like Slater, I wasn't a huge fan of him, but he lived in the city. You know, I think Tristan Beck does too, maybe. So those things go a long way with me.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, that stuff is important, man. I mean, when you can feel like the players that you're rooting for are part of the city, part of the community, it's a cool feeling to know that you can just run into them at Safeway, you know what I mean? And or you know, see them walking around, you know what I mean? Like it's rad to see that because, you know, they're just like normal people outside. Yeah, they're probably a little bit taller than the average person, but you know, they're just here, you know, and it's cool. You know, I saw Randy Rodriguez a lot towards the end of the season for like that whole month he was around. It was cool. Actually, there was a pitcher back with the Astros in Fresno. He actually loved Fresno so much. He was a Miami guy. You know, he's a guy that defected from Cuba, played and then played for the Astros for a while. He actually loved his time in Fresno so much. He moved his family to Fresno, and he found a job in the offseason. That's the other thing too. A lot of these minor league guys, they still have to work regular jobs in the off season. You know, if they're not on the 40-man roster, they have to work. A lot of guys work regular jobs. Some guys drive Uber. I think the really cool story about Ryan Walker was that he was an Uber driver coming up or like DoorDash or something like that. That's what makes his story so cool. And the fact that he's our closer now and he's just so elite, it's sick to see that, right? And just to think where his career was 2-3 years ago and to where he's at now, it's incredible, you know. And that's why a lot of these guys, it's cool in my position because I get to see the human aspect of it too, you know, and it's a lot of the general public doesn't necessarily get to see that, which, you know, I think it puts them in a different light and it makes them a little bit more relatable. You know, you learn, you know, where these guys like to eat, you know, you learn, you know who their families are. That was one thing I did a lot of in AAA was I managed a lot of the families of people. So, you know, during that time, I got a chance to meet a lot of Astros families at the time, like, you know, our forever Oakland A, Tony Kemp, his family would come through a lot.
I wanted him to come to the Giants. Him and Yaz are like best friends.
Yeah. And Tony's a super nice guy. Super, super nice guy. Got a chance to work with him really closely. Him and his wife, Michelle, the sweetest people, like super nice. They just had they're Nashville folks. So they're out there. And so they super nice. Got to work with Carlos Correa, forever Giant Carlos Correa. But him and his wife, when he was rehabbing with us, got to meet them. They were really cool as well.
Nice.
So it was cool to kind of rearrange that. And there's some stories there too. Probably some that I can't talk about here, but there's some stories about families and stuff like that. Which, but it is cool. It's cool to see them more in a human light. You see the ones that are dads. You see the ones that are, you know, enjoy being with their families. You know, their kids run up to them after a game or whatever. It's cool. Wilmer Flores is, even though he's hurt, he's at the games every day with his family. Like, his family's always with him, and it's so cool because he's always walking out with his kid, hold his kid. Like, you could tell that guy loves being a dad. So it's pretty rad to see them in that light.
Nice.
The Giants, it's been my perception forever that the Giants very much care about the character of the guys that they've brought in. And there have been a handful of guys throughout the years where you're kind of like, hey, this isn't the coolest, nicest dude. He's a good player. But it's always really kind of heartwarming to see just how family oriented and how down to earth. Like Brandon Crawford is a perfect example. You talk about a kid who grew up in the Bay Area, his dreams and aspirations all centered around the Giants, and he lives his dream. And the humility that guy had during his playing career was incredible. I mean, just the perfect example of what we like in San Francisco.
For sure.
Excellent ball player. Excellent human being. I mean, you can't really ask for much else, right?
Well, that's what I'm excited for this new era of baseball to be in, because I feel like it's going to go back to that. I feel like the previous regime, they kind of had their way of doing things. Nothing wrong with that, but
now for our favorite segment, shit on Farhan.
Yeah, I think you turn the page because it's a new season.
I never had a chance to meet him. I saw him here or there, but I didn't get a chance to get a personal relationship with him. Somebody in my position probably wouldn't anyway. But from the stories that I heard, he was always a personable guy. But things happen. You have to change. There's some change needed, and it's nice to have a player's perspective running the show. And I think that's going to go a long way with players. I think as players are going to be more enticed to come.
Yeah, as far as the whole Farhan thing goes, I mean, we got spoiled, right? We can't lie, like 3 and 5 in the 2010s, and to go from that, riding that, and 2016 could have been one also if they didn't fold up against the Cubs, right? So
it's funny. A week after that series, I saw Hunter Pence in Disneyland. And I was wearing a Giant shirt. I wasn't working for them at the time, but I was in the minors at that point, and played it cool because that was first time meeting him. He was the most humble guy you've ever met. Cool. I actually had 2 cool interactions with him. One there at Disneyland. There's video. I guess my wife was making fun of me because I guess I kept shaking his hand like a bunch, like, hey there, good season. Like, just totally I never get a chance to fan out on somebody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was a place where I wasn't working. I didn't have to, so I just said hi. He was a super nice guy. The second time I interacted with him was actually when he was rehabbing. When he came back to the Giants, he was rehabbing with Sacramento. Sacramento was in Fresno. Him and his wife pull up in this black Suburban, and he walks in, and I said, "Hey, Hunter, nice to meet you. I'm Christian. If you need anything, let me know." He was like, "Yeah, cool, no problem. Thanks, man." He was like, "Hey, and if you guys need anything from me, just let me know. I'm easy." But he says that because in the minor leagues, typically when there's a big leaguer come through, you'll usually try to get some kind of promotional material out of them. Like you'll get maybe you'll give them a box of balls, they can sign them so that we can give them to we could auction them off or raffle them for community things like that, right? So that's kind of the norm for the minor leagues. So it's funny when you see veteran players do super cool about that stuff, and then you see guys coming up that are not like that. It's so crazy. The flip side is the guys that should have that entitlement don't, but the guys that shouldn't, that haven't paid their dues yet, do. It's wild, And a good example, Felix Hernandez. Got a chance to work with Felix Hernandez in Fresno. The nicest dude. You wouldn't think it, but he's the nicest dude. At least the perception of it, right? He's got this arrogant upfront things, but that's just how he played the game, right?
He's the king.
He was a bulldog. Yeah. And so, exactly. And so, but you see him super, humble guy. Anything you needed from him, he was there, willing to do. He signed his jersey he played in, and the thing with the minor leagues, these guys don't get to keep those jerseys. They get recycled through, and so he signed his jersey and gave it to us for promotional use. He signed 3 boxes of baseballs. He hung out in that clubhouse in Modesto for 4 or 5 hours after the game, just hanging out. He bought a couple of bottles. He bought food for everybody that was in there, and just enjoyed it. He the thing is too with big leaguers is when they go rehab start, it's custom that they buy these spreads for the rest of the team.
Oh, nice.
So
give them a
one
little
time
taste.
Oh yeah, like he would get like Texas Roadhouse. I remember he got that for everybody, and the players were stoked. It was cool for us because they always buy way too much, and like, hey, come get some food. I'm like, yep, be right there. And so it was cool. He was super nice guy, does everything. A lot of guys are like that. Timmy was another one like that when he did that brief stint with the Angels. Got a chance to meet him. He pitched a day game. It was super weird. So he pitched a day game in Fresno. Hundreds of Giants fans, thousands of Giants fans, really. Everybody's so stoked to see him, and he was pitching against us. So it was funny because he pitched 5 solid innings, right? Everybody was cheering for him, so stoked. But it was funny because you saw the crowd shift because they were all Timmy fans, but as soon as he got out of the game, then they became Grizzlies fans again, and then we ended up winning. So it was funny to see that dynamic. Nice. But after that, Timmy stayed, and mind you, there was a rumor that he had a house in Fresno because he came up through Fresno with the Giants back then, and there was rumors that he had a house there. I don't know how true that was, but he stuck around after this day game. Right, game was at 1:00. Game was probably over by like 3:30. Him and I didn't leave the ballpark till close to probably 7 p.m. because he stayed and signed something for everyone.
Wow.
And he was still in full uniform too. Like after his start, he had his pullover on. Somebody gave him he's a Seattle guy, so somebody gave him a Seattle Supersonics hat. He wore that thing the rest of the homestand, and just a fan gave it to him. Some kid said, "Hey Timmy, can I have your glasses?" He takes off. He's like $300 Oakleys. Yeah, just hands them over. Just the coolest, down to earth guy. You know what I mean? And that's why this new era is so exciting because I feel like that's coming back. And
I think
it's going
so
to be
too.
Really exciting to see that.
Yeah. Now, if we can just get the marketing to shift to the new, because nothing like it is. It was okay the first time around.
We are resilient.
It's ripe for a lot of kind of nasty wordplay that I've certainly been guilty of, and my dad was when he was still around. So we'd love to see the marketing shift a little bit. And
I mean, I wish I had a say in that, but that's not my department. I'll let those guys figure that out.
It's got to be one and done, though. They went 1, 2, and now 3. Come on, let's go. Well, we're winding down here, but I really wanted just to share with you guys because every once in a while I get a little mail, and this is a 2018 rookie update tops, Willie Adames, and my goal is to get this signed this year, so let's see how long it takes me, right?
Yeah, I'm sure he's the guy that'll do it, man. He's
like a nice enough guy.
He's a nice guy.
Well, yeah, I mean, sure. I don't know if you've ever seen me, but I'm at the game a lot. I went to 55 last year, and I'll probably go to 56 this year. I'm not going to let you know how old I am, but let's just say there's a hint in there.
That's awesome, man. That's so awesome. It's funny because a lot of the people that I work with specifically in my department, have been with the Giants since the Candlestick days. My specific boss, his name is Stan. This other guy, Gene, too. They're both our VPs and our directors. These guys have been there through everything, man. Like he was telling us stories the other day about the Candlestick days, how the conversion went from baseball to football, and especially those times when it overlapped. Like it was a lot because there was two different companies in the same venue. So there was always like, all right, we'll take our stuff down so you guys can put your stuff up, and vice versa. You know what I mean? And sometimes it would be 36 hours they had to do this full stadium conversion. He said those days were a grind. For sure.
Yeah, they had to roll the seats out, roll them back. I mean, that whole setup was crazy.
You had the family section,
Yeah, it was crazy. But yeah, it's cool. I got a little taste of that when I was working with the Grizzlies because we also did soccer at the same venue. So we had to rip every single soccer match. We had to rip out the mound. Mm-hmm. And and the seasons run parallel to each other. So there'll be times where we have a road trip. There's a soccer game or two in the middle of that road trip. Come back the following Monday, and we had to have a baseball stadium again. So we'd have to rip out the mound. We'd have to lay down sod over the infield, like the infield was never there. Basically, we got to replay on a new field pretty like 17 times a year.
Right.
That conversion was crazy to have to do that. I mean, hauling out pallets of grass. Like, we got to the point where we're donating grass to every community organization, every school that wanted it. Like, we were sending this stuff out because we had too much, you know. And so it was. I can imagine what the candlestick days were. That's crazy. Yeah.
Well, if let's say somebody out there wants to get a job over with you, what would you suggest to them? What are the requirements, and what kind of thing could they start with, and where could they go? Like, could they start here and end up here, or like what do you think?
Oh yeah. So perfect example is the guy I was talking about, Stan. He started off as a normal like ops guy. Our VP, he started off as like a ticket taker when he was in as a teenager, and he's now, you know, vice president of ballpark operations. Like, he's a true testament to just, you know, the loyalty. If you stay loyal to a company that treats you well, which the Giants very much so do, you know, you can start at the ground level. It's normal game day employee. You could be an usher, you could be a clubhouse guy, you could be a security guard. All those people that start off as seasonal people, there's room for them to grow. I'm a testament to that too, because I started off as a part-timer guest services person, you know, and throughout my career, or throughout this time working in the minor leagues, you figure out like, oh yeah, I could definitely do this like for the rest of my life. This is so sick, you know? And so I would say if anybody wanted to be in this business, it's definitely just get your foot in the door. Just look on job postings. The Giants on their website usually have postings. Another cool resource is this website called Teamwork Online. and they are a website that only posts jobs in the sports industry. Oh, wow. Across all sports. So that's the spot if you want to know what team is hiring, and it's all over the country, and sometimes even abroad, depending on if, you know, there's academies. Like baseball's big in that. They got like Dominican academies and nice Puerto Rican stuff, like the Puerto Rican academies, things like that. So Teamwork Online is an awesome resource for that. LinkedIn's also another one too. And also, as far as baseball goes, the best time to start applying is in January, because that's when the hiring starts ramping up. Yeah, October, the end of the season months, that's usually not when people are hiring unless it's a need, a really specific need. Typically, January is when you want to start applying for a place like this.
And is it a detriment to somebody to be too much of a fan? Like, do you see like somebody coming in as like the biggest Giants fan, and they're like, we can't have this guy that close to the players? Like, you know what I mean?
It definitely depends on the person, but sometimes that can be a detriment. You know, I grew up, I'm a big Giants fan, right? But I've also been in this business a long time, so I understand how to kind of turn that part of me off.
Right.
I can't tell you how many interviews I've been in where it's like, what makes you want to work here? Oh, well, I grew up a fan and I've been doing this. And I was like, oh, that's great. But then you start to kind of ask the questions like, okay, well, how would you deal with this interaction if you had to meet somebody? So they're like, oh, I don't know what I would do. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, maybe, you know, there's a certain level of professionalism you do have to try to uphold when you are.
Hey, this is Grant McCrae. You're listening to Skaters on Baseball.
Hey, sorry guys, my internet went out. There was a power surge in this area.
All good.
PG&E.
Yeah, it froze up for a second. It was like,
yeah, I know. I was save.
So we were talking about the whole working there and what people see. I'm a graphics guy, so I've kind of entertained the idea loosely at points in time. I did a lot of licensing art at 20th Century Fox, and I feel like, well, that's what Giants marketing is, licensing art. But I'm a big fan. I would have a hard time maybe tempering some of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it helps to have knowledge of the team, 100%. You know, you need to know what you are representing, what you're working on. So being a fan is definitely a plus. Now, if you can control it, then that's the really like big component, like big thing for us. That's cool. I'm looking forward to skating a lot more in the city. I cruise around on my bike a lot, like we on our lunch breaks, or I tend to do working lunches, and so that way I can have like an hour to just kind of cruise around the city on my bike. So the other day I went to Third and Army to go and see how that place was. I remember, my first time coming to the city to skate. That was one of the first spots I went to there, and 3 Up 3 Down. Super fun to skate those areas, and I remember going to FTC with a couple of friends. Had a friend of mine rode for Western Edition out of FTC, and I remember seeing like Pat Washington there, and Carl Watson showed up too. It was pretty sick to like see all those guys, and guys that I super looked up to skating, like and to see them just kind of there, just hanging out, and I got a chance to go back to some of those spots to take a look and see how it was, and I saw that there's like another ledge spot across the way from Third and Army that I thought was pretty sick. I dn't have my skateboard with me, so
the metal ledges.
Like a metal ledge. So I'm really stoked to, like, once this weather holds up, to be able to go back out and cruise around. And saw Soma Park. I thought that was pretty sick too. Skated Third and Army a lot back in the day, so looking forward to going back to all those spots.
Have you gone by the UN Plaza?
I've seen it, and I was keeping up on it when it was being built, but I haven't had a chance to go and like roll around there or see it in person. But
yeah, that place is good, but you gotta like make sure you don't put anything down, because there's vultures stealing shit. But Waller seems to be the one everyone loves. Like if you go up Haight and you're at Golden Gate Park, there's freshly paved Waller with tons of options.
Yeah, that sounds cool. Yeah, I've seen videos of that. It's pretty sick. I'm a big Jack Curtin fan, and so I've been following his career for a long time. I feel like I emulated a lot of my skating from him. I was super into DGK at the time, and so I skated. I felt like I would try to skate like him, and so I always noticed him, like he would be cruising around the city, and him and was it Matt Miller?
Oh yeah,
he was a sack guy, right?
Those are my friends.
He had massive pop. Yeah, it's so sick to see that. That's why I was stoked to be on here, because you can talk about skating, talk about guys from my era of skating, which I like the new guys too, but like my whole era was like the early S days with like Tom Penny and Arto and stuff. Like I love that era of skating. So it's cool to like. Yeah, that was my first video I ever saw, and that's where I first got introduced to Tom Penny, and that's been my favorite skater of all time. That's my favorite Thrasher cover too. That full pipe kickflip he did.
Oh yeah,
that's my favorite cover for sure. It was so rad. And then I do have a Jake Phelps story.
Oh, let's hear it.
Yeah, so it was Skate Rock in Madeira.
I was there.
So we were cruising around. I was there skating. The skate shop that I rode for was in Madeira. So I was there skating around, and he was like rolling around with his army helmet. So sick to see him rolling around with that army helmet.
Yeah.
And I was 19 at the time, so it's been a while. And seeing him like on the guitar and stuff, and everybody like the band up on that little area, it was so sick to see that. Right, we're all skating. It was like felt like a really cool session, and that park was brand new. It was the only like cradle that we've had that's in that area.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to see that and see everybody rolling around. And so at the end everybody was hopping back in the van. And I think you guys were about to head out, and I said, hey Jake, if you don't mind, I'd like to shake your hand and say thanks for coming out. Obviously I knew the gravity of him in the skateboard industry, and so I asked him, I was like, hey man, like, you think I could do it? You think I can do this with skating, And he was like, how old are you? I was like 19. He's like, you better do it now. I was like, okay, yeah, for sure. And at the time I was getting ready to move to San Jose, because I had an offer but I had a chance to go to San Jose State. I figured, cool, I'll be close to the Bay Area, I can skate more. I had a friend rode for Sessions, so he was out there, so I was gonna go stay with him. He's like, but before you do any of that, you need to first take care of that big zit. And he puts his fingernail straight into my chest to try to pop some bump I had on my chest. And
funny. So at that same event, there was a situation where Trixie, the drummer, Trujillo's wife, she was playing drums, and this girl came up to her and started fanning out on her. It was like, Trixie, oh my God, a girl drumming. And I filmed the whole thing, and it's this really epic moment for all of us. Yeah. And I mean, I doubt it, but like if anyone out there is watching this that's friends with you that knows that girl, I would love to do like a little catch up with her now.
Oh, I'm sure I can find that out. I'm sure I know the people that would know for sure. Because Madera's a very small community. Trixie,
and she's fucking just lit. She's so cool. It was really that was a fun trip. That was the first skate rock trip.
Yeah,
Las Vegas to Seattle.
I was super stoked to be there. It was so much fun to see that kind of atmosphere and everybody just super pumped to just skate. The music was awesome. It was so much fun.
Vibes, yeah. Well, dude, you've come on the show now, so everybody can know who you are. So don't be a stranger. If you want to join us live anytime, chime in.
Sure,
Christian and I have been doing some live talks. Like if there's some interesting stuff going on, we'll jump on. And keep in contact.
Yeah, for sure. If you guys ever want a little tour around the ballpark too, I'm more than happy to facilitate that for you. I'll walk you around and show you the ins and outs.
Yeah, you'll be seeing me for sure.
Yeah.
I'm down there a lot.
Yeah. I need to find a mini ramp. Out here so I could go. I love skating mini ramps. So
I don't know if the Daly City one's still there, but that used to be the best one in the area.
Really? Oh, okay. What happened to that one that was in the water? Do you guys know where that one went?
Oh, they just built it for They just built it for the.
I was at that game that day. It was a fantastic day at the park. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I know. I got a couple of the skate day shirts, so I was pretty stoked on that. Did you guys get a skate day shirt?
I got one of the Jeremy Fish hoodies, whatever.
Nice.
Yeah, the giveaway that day.
Nice. Yeah.
So it's
sick.
awesome.
Yeah, that's dope.
Well, listen,
That's
Chris,
awesome,
thanks
man.
for taking the time. It's really, really great talking with you and meeting you, and dude, some really good insight into the whole sort of Giants organization and what goes on.
For sure. I got some gifts for you guys. I'll have to send them to you. I got a Webby basketball jersey.
What?
Here, Logan Webb basketball jersey. Here, I'll take it out of this
First ever gifts to skaters on baseball.
So here. I got the Logan Webb. Basketball jersey. I'll send this your way, or maybe we'll meet up there in the city and I'll hand it over. And then I also got the bobblehead. This guy too.
Game up.
So it's got everybody on there. The wall, Webby.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'll send these guys
Christian
to you, or I'll meet up
walking
with
around
you guys.
LA and that thing.
Yeah, I was trying to get my buddy lives in LA too, and I was trying to get him to do it too. Trying to give him one.
You haven't had a sneak peek at the new City Connect jerseys, have you?
No, they keep those things so under wraps. Like I haven't seen anything, no illustrations, nothing. I mean, the only thing that I've seen is some of the giveaways. Yeah, for sure. It's going to be exciting to see those. I was a fan of the other ones. I know a lot of people weren't, but I was a fan of the old ones. I definitely believe in that City Connect magic that had them. But yeah, I liked them. I also like the hat. Yeah, the record. I like the hat. I like that orange hat.
You have to envision it. I got a shark hat I put on my head.
Well, as a marketing guru that I'm not, I would just say the more jerseys, the more you sell. You know, if you only have 3 jerseys, then I buy 3 jerseys. I can't buy anymore. If you have 12 jerseys, like the Warriors, you just dude, you could have a jersey for all 9 players if you had 9 different jerseys, right?
For sure. Yeah. Well, hopefully
there's
more
my
come
tip
out.
to no one.
I'll find the person that I can relay that to.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man. And I could send you some stickers too, or if we see each other, whatever. We got stickers, and I know one of the guys put one of our stickers on the inside the clubhouse on the box where they keep the bats or something. So we were stoked on that.
Hell yeah, man. Yeah, that'd be sick.
Well, cool. Thanks for joining.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Hit us up anytime. We'll stay in touch.
Yep.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Finish by saying this.
Yeah?
I love you guys.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Skaters on Baseball. If you liked what you heard, please spread the word, give us a good review, or hell, blow us up on your social media if you're down. Follow us at Skates on Base on Instagram for baseball news and other fun stuff. We love comments and listener participation, so bring it with an audio clip or an email. You can email us at skatersonbase@gmail.com. We're everywhere you get your podcasts, and we'll be here all season long.
Let's go, San Francisco. Let's go, Giants.
I'm excited to give everything that I have for these next 6 seasons and, see where it takes us.
Adios! Pelota!
See you soon. Thank you.
And I am forever a Giant.